This is my implementation of the Moog 1125 sample and hold controller accessory as a 16U Eurorack module. The module contains all of the same controls as the original, obviously in a lot smaller format. Two key controls. First is the rate control, which controls the rate of sampling. The second is the pattern control, which is linked to a second low frequency oscillator within the unit that is synced to the rate control that gives a sawtooth that is sampled by the sample and hold circuitry. So varying positions of the pattern control give different sample and hold patterns. There are 6 slide switches across the bottom of the unit. The rightmost one turns the trigger or gate outputs on or off, and there are 2 of those: switch trigger, S trigger, and voltage trigger, V trigger. There are 2 CV outputs. Output 1 is full scale and can be turned on and off, and output 2, that's not in use here, is half the voltage of output 1. In addition to that, there is a switch that alters the gate out or trigger output pulse to either wide here or narrow. There's also a span control for the frequency, for the rate control. So in narrow mode and in wide mode. So we'll leave that in narrow mode. So then we have 3 sliders. The first slider on the right here controls the mixture between the sawtooth low frequency oscillator and a random source. So there we have sawtooth, we've got a rising scale, and random. The centre slide, its scale is the output scaling, so and you can have any mixture of the 2, so you can have sawtooth or sawtooth nominal with a bit of random, all random, or random with a bit of sawtooth. I'll leave it on the sawtooth. Then there is a glide control, which will be more obvious if we have wide triggers. Then there are 3 push buttons: stop and start, and a manual sample control. The trigger output stays on as long as this is pressed. In addition to the Moog connections, standard Moog accessory connections, I've added 3 extra inputs which are on the left at the bottom here. One is an input to the start, an input to the stop, and an external CV input that overrides the sawtooth and random oscillators, so external voltages can be sampled. So if you start it going, put it on sawtooth, There are a variety of patterns at any particular speed that can be obtained using the pattern control. I've now repatched the CV output on the module via a 2HP tune quantizer, so now it will be locked onto a major scale and semitone intervals. So obviously, using a quantizer, if we turn the glide up, the output still glides linearly but is then stepped into semitone intervals. So rather than portamento, we get glissando. The module itself is a single PCB construction. The controls and input and output sockets are mounted on one side. All of the other components are on the other side. It uses through-hole transistors, but the resistors and some of the ICs used are surface mount, but a large format surface mount has been used, so assembly is relatively easy. So that is the 1125 sample and hold controller.